that aspect that our subcontractor pleaded guilty to falsification of documents, pollution of public waterways, endangering their employees. All that was a grand jury report. And Rockwell was a subcontractor until 1992 when they left. They paid an $18.5 million fine for jeopardizing our workers, for putting our workers at risk.
No one's disputing that.
No, I'm not saying you're disputing it, but I'm saying Rocky Flats is unique because of that. And because they pled guilty to that and they put their workers at risk, they exposed their workers to these chemicals. They exposed, and none of them were regulated.
Perhaps
they
you're not
regulate these chemicals.
Perhaps you're not aware, but buried deep in every DOE contractor's contract is the clause that they are indemnified.
Yes.
And that indemnification many times led them to think that they could not report, even though they would never have to pay for hurting the workers. They are 100% indemnified for worker injury. That's part of the contract, or they'd never get a civilian contractor to do these jobs. I don't agree with it, it's the way it is. However, by doing that, many of the contractors felt that they had impunity to hide anything they wanted to. By providing your records and your recollections and the names of the people you worked with, we can piece together enough information to show that adequate monitoring was not done. That will extend your SEC. If we can show that this incident was never monitored, and we know these 20 people were exposed and their records don't show it, that's what we need. I'm not disputing that you guys have had a hell of a time. I'm not. Seriously, it makes my skin crawl.
Well, you know, this SEC report, it says on page 46, potential for exposure to neptunium existed from 1962 to 1988.
Correct, and that's the issue that you need to bring to NIOSH and to the NIOSH Advisory Board and who's ever doing the working group, because that is their issue. That's what Congress has that advisory board for. That's why they've got that working group there. So it needs to be brought to attention to the advisory board, to the working group that's in the advisory board, to the SC&A, who's the subcontractor for the board, everything, and for allowing the SECs to last over 2 years is also contradictory to the regulations, because 42 CFR 83 states if you do not have the data at this time, you're to give the SEC. So it doesn't, you not to wait to obtain the data. If you do not have it right now to do it, you're to be issued the SEC. The secretary can withdraw it later on, but that's what the regulations state. So that's another issue, okay? What we're here for is mainly Part E. Because you have an advisory board, that's where you need to take those complaints to.
Under Part B.
Although we want to hear anything you have to say, we want to just hear what you have to say about your issues in the program.
We have a hand over here.
I'll be quickly. I filed for my dad, who passed away in '83. And when we first filed the complaint in NIOSH, the gentleman that was talking to me from NIOSH, I didn't tell him I worked at Rocky Flats. I told him nothing, just that I knew where he worked in certain areas. I felt the guy very rude and intrusive. He was trying to tell me about dose reconstruction. I told him to stick it where the sun doesn't shine because he doesn't have accurate data. He said he's pulling it off a DOE database. I just chuckled at him. I said, there are many years and there are people here. Your dosimeter badge was turned in. Never did you get a dose back. I worked one line in 71 building called the AM line 1, line 30, fluoride and americium line. You had to wear lead aprons, reach in with tongs. Ringtons we're talking about. I cannot tell you how many times I got a dose badge back that had 0, and my supervisor would just say, Well, anyway, to go on.
Before you, I don't want to lose you. Malcolm, can we, or somebody, can we make a list of the people that should be contacted for interviews? Which is supplemental interviews for the NIOSH? Because if they're going to go for a next SEC, they're going to want another round of interviews.
Yep.
Right, Terry?
Okay, NIOSH is interviewing people as we speak. They just had a round of interviews in December, and they had some in January, and I believe at least one in February. So if you have information that will help, especially documentation, I would love documentation, that will help get the people covered from 1984 until 2005, I need to see it. I'm the co-petitioner, okay?
And I was
Let
gonna,
me continue if you would,
Yes.
please. I ended up filing for my mother at the time, and she has since passed away. NIOSH came back in after the first interview and said your claim wasn't valid. That kind of ticked me off. I got 35 years at Rocky Flats. I know a lot of people here that put a lot of work and effort out there. I ran 3 of the major facilities out there during that time, my time out there. So I kind of got a good idea of what's going on in that world, to say. Talking to NIOSH, they did not want to listen to what I had to say. They didn't, like I said, they're very rude at that point. I went ahead and they ticked me off to the point that I started investigating where my father worked. So at the time when I filed in the fact under just lung cancer, knowing that he was a boiler vent operator. And he always had to lean over boxes and glove boxes in 707 building and other areas. Went back and found out he also worked in the brilliant shops that I didn't know about. And they were in the brilliant shops pulling the onion skins off with the dust and flying around and eating food and doing everything else. So when this was opened again, they asked me to go back and get medical records. Well, after 10 years, hospitals do not have records, they get rid of them. So I don't know if he died of beryllium, he died of plutonium, but he did have cancer and he died of lung cancer. So something took his life while he was there. He was healthy when he got there and he died when he was still working there.
Cool.
Real quick, that's gone, by the way, and then when this new perimeter opened up, I went to the February 19th meeting. And said, look, I'm the only survivor in my family. They made me file another claim under my name now, which I did. They were very helpful. Went back and said, gee, you fit within the parameters, he fits within the parameters, 83 of December, and I said, fine. I was surprised. A week and a half later, I got a letter in the mail, and it said, we need your birth certificate. Oh, by the way, here's all your numbers you can put into the computer and you can follow the status. I said, really? This is great. I haven't had this response. So I got one of the birth certificate. I sent it back to him exactly that same date, right back to the, Tenley's name is my claim. I don't know if there's anybody else from London, Kentucky.
Actually, they're in,
Yeah.
they're in.
So anyway, keep going real quickly here. Didn't hear anything back. I sent my birth certificate in. I tried to find out, did you get it? No contact. Every time I dial, I get the Denver office. Denver office are very nice and helpful and pretty much saying, don't worry about it, 2 weeks, call back. Let me know. I would have thought the person in that office would have took the initiative, at least go call the guy and say, did you get his birth certificate? That never happened. From the March the 5th till now, every single day I've tried to get into that computer and I cannot get into it. Got a letter Saturday, which I thought was kind of funny, wanted to know, gee, are you really the son? Did you file a suit? Did you get money? Did you provide fraud?
That's a different form. There's a process, unfortunately.
Let me finish, not done.
Well, you're gonna
I've just a
confuse-
minute left, you can tell me everything you want, because I'm on a roll and I want to stop.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to stop. Ironically, I called, like I said, over and over again, and I find it really funny today that this meeting's being attended, and I get a phone call. And said my claim will be reviewed, and I'll know in 2 weeks whether it's authorized or not. And I think that's kind of ironic on this day when we're meeting
I'll
with
take
you
it,
people.
Donna.
I get a phone call finally.
Okay, there's a, unfortunately for posthumous claims, they go through quicker under SEC, unfortunately, than the people who are still alive. There's a different standard for people who are currently alive and filing under Part B. Under the posthumous claim, which I'm sorry you had to file under, they prove who you are in lineage to the person that's deceased. They prove that that person was a worker. If all of that lines up, then they're going to send you questionnaires. The one that you were kind of concerned about is like, are you the son and have you ever filed for a claim or have you been convicted of fraud? That's part of the process to approve you. So that was all part of them doing it. But I don't like what I heard, Malcolm, is he doesn't get a phone call back.
I have not got a phone today. First phone call, and it was
Today.
from Kentucky, the gentleman said, I got your birth certificate, which I sent 2 months ago, and I'm reviewing, I'll be able to make a decision on the claim in 2 to 3 weeks. And I'm going, geez, there is no system where I can get to the person to talk to him. And in fact, if I call the phone number that's on there, it says it's a personal number, you have no authorization calling it,
Right.
and it kicks you off.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now,
Okay.
there needs to be some communication in that system when you get into it.
Donna had her hand up.
Yeah, you sent it to London, Kentucky through the mail, correctly, and you didn't fax it,
Department of
correctly?
Labor, yeah.
Okay, and when did you send it to London, Kentucky?
2 months ago.
When?
Yeah,
I've sent 2 things. I sent my birth certificate to it, and then I faxed that document right away Saturday when I got it. I turned around and faxed it right back. I'm not
Okay.
holding on to it.
right. And
Right.
that's the issue. They've got this new system to mail everything into London, Kentucky, so it can be scanned to be electronically.
Well,
They're not
let me
supposed to have
tell
that
you-
long of a delay.
Let me tell you, in his message that he left on my phone today was, you're okay to go, get in the computer, you're all set, and if your number's ready to go, guess what I've done for an hour and a half before I came to this meeting? Tried to get into that computer, and guess what?
Couldn't get it.
Can't get into it.
I can get it.
And, you know, that's one of the reasons I'm here. I mean, a couple of months ago, I'm not sure, I lose track of time, but we were at another meeting here, and luckily at that meeting, some of the people from the Department of Labor were here, and they heard those same complaints. And I really think it struck them when they heard the number of people talking about the problems they're having getting into the system. Because they'll tell you up front, you know, we got this great system. If you call, you go right in, you get a call. If no one's there, you get a call back in so many days or a day. It does not happen. So what I need is to hear. I hate to come around and sound like I want to hear everybody's complaint. But if you're encountering those situations and it continues, I need to hear that, because I'm going to talk to the Department of Labor about that and let them know that there is still something wrong with their system. And in addition, there's something wrong with the system, you know, on the that automatic status system if you're not able to get in. You know, unfortunately, since I don't have a claim, I can't check that system. But, you know, for those of you who encounter that problem, let me know.
How many have called and have never had their phone call returned?
Can we have a show of hands? How many people don't get their calls returned? One-handed per person, please.
Okay, and how many people have that little ID number to get in to find out the status of your claim and can never get in there?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
There's like 6.
How many have been filing their claim to London, Kentucky, and it's been over months before the district office has ever received it, to your knowledge?
7. 7.
Do you realize that you can still fax and that fax number goes directly to the district office?
Well, the first letter that came did not have a fax or a phone number on it.
Right.
So I had to mail it.
Right, they've
Now,
taken that
this one that
away.
came Saturday had a fax number on it, and then I could finally fax to them. It also had a phone number to my person in part who was responsible for the claim. And
Correct.
I called it because I missed the call this morning, and then that's when I found out you get bumped off the system.
Just to go back, when you call and don't get it, when you call, do you get a recording or do you get nothing?
I get nothing when I call Kentucky, but when I call the other number,
You say, okay, just let me-
There is no number. There's no number to call Kentucky.
No.
Yeah.
But it says at the bottom, if you cannot get into the computer, dial 888.
Oh,
Yeah,
When
yes.
you dial that number, it goes to the Denver area office.
Correct.
And
correct.
I'll tell you, they're nice people, but they don't know anything.
Right.
And they don't give you anything.
Right.
I'm sorry, I mean,
Right.
I'm looking for a birth certificate, and the guy couldn't even give me that for 2 months. You know, if you'd have just said you had it, I'd have gone away and sat down and relaxed.
I can tell you that Seattle District Office got hit very hard with the first 2 Hanford SECs. We had the identical complaints, with the exception they didn't have the computer tracking system at that time. We had the identical complaints because they felt, or they didn't think, that they needed to be responsive. Over a period of about 2 years and multiple complaints to Malcolm, I was burning up his phone on a regular basis, as well with all the other claimants, because I gave out Malcolm's number. Call Malcolm, he'll call him and make him call you back. Email Malcolm, he'll let you know. So I want you all to take Malcolm's information from the back table, and, I'm sorry, Malcolm, Because
That's why I'm here.
that's his job, and he has helpers. And when you don't get an answer in 3 business days, I don't say a month, I said 3 business days, give them a weekend, that's 2 days off. You call on Friday, they'll call you by Tuesday or Wednesday. In 3 business days, and you have left your name, your number, and a number where they're gonna find you at. They will not play telephone tag with you at home. And when they call you at home, if they're not sure it's a secure line, they are not by law allowed to leave any information. So if you tell them it's okay to leave a message, then they know that they can. But by law, if they're going to leave personal information on a machine and somebody else can hear it, they're not allowed to do that. So what I tell my claimants is if you want to call back, you better be at the number you're going to call me back. So if that's your mobile phone, make it your mobile phone. But if they don't call you back in 3 days, you call Malcolm or you email Malcolm and say, Malcolm, why are they ignoring me?
And let me just say,
You're just about out of all your cookies over there.
before you speak, sir, just give me 1 second. Faye and I are very good friends and we tease, but I'm very serious. My office is set up to try to assist people. Obviously, we can't help everybody, but we do try our best. And so, yes, please call us. We will have our card, we have brochures in the back, we have a toll-free number, yes, we have a fax number. Give us a call. So like I said, I tease with Faye and I play with her, but she's very serious when she says that.
And who is Faye?
I'm sorry, you came in late. Hi, I'm Faye. I'm going to turn the projector back on.
Can I just one
Yes.
Yeah,
question?
I,
Why can't, I'm griping over communications here
Okay.
more than anything else.
Yes.
Just talk to them.
yeah.
If I'm at the point now to say no or yes, get off the pot and let's go. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's where it's at. But why can't the Denver area office, if I'm talking to a person there, explain what my issue is, that I can't get it out of Kentucky? Why can't they go get the information for me? Is there something that prohibits them from doing that?
No, there's nothing prohibited. What Donna was saying earlier, they've set up, I'm not trying to make excuses for them, but they have set up a new system. So anything that you now submit, it goes to London, Kentucky, so they can scan it in. And I think some of the problems, not all of them, but some of the problems is if you call the district office right away, they aren't going to have that document because it's being scanned in by the people in London, Kentucky. I do not know how long it should take, and I'm still trying to find that out. It should not be a long lag time, but there obviously is some type of lag time because things have to be scanned in now. So I think that's part of the problem. So I think what could happen is that you call that claims examiner the next day, he or she really does not have any information because they're waiting for London, Kentucky to notify them that that document is now in your file.
In London, Kentucky, changing addresses at this time,
Excuse me?
aren't they changing addresses?
They changed to London, Kentucky in a staged maneuver through the different district offices. And at this time, all of the district offices are staged into that system. What we're seeing from Washington State is a minimum of 10 days from the time we turn it in at the resource center until it will first appear in the system in London, Kentucky. So we're losing at least 5 days in the mail and at least 5 days in London, Kentucky. And they told us that they're trying to improve that, but we are seeing at least a 10-day delay. So if you have something urgent that needs to be turned in, if you have something that they need right away, or you'd like them to see it quicker, there are fax numbers to each of the district offices. Those faxes still get scanned in, but it's only a 2-day delay from the time it leaves the fax machine until it's visible in the system. So I wish I had a better answer for that. And remember, I don't work for the Department of Labor, I just complain about them. But that's where we're at right now with the system. You have the ability to fax at any time, and those fax numbers are not secret. And Congressman Polis is here. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me, I'm not from your state. Just so you know.
Polis is a lot bigger than I am.
Oh, there you are. Please step forward. So he's going to address us at this time.
Listen to the meeting for a little while. Is it all right if I just listen for a little while?
Sure.
Just jumping right in? That'd be good.
Have a seat up front. Okay, now, this man has been waiting very
Just
patiently.
one thing and then I'm done.
You promise?
I promise.
Okay,
Under the Freedom of Information Act, I filed with DOE for my records,
Mhm.
just for anybody's knowledge, you can all do it.
it's free.
He sent me back a stack like this, over
Yes.
35, so I
Yes,
have
it
all
is.
my accidents, histories and stuff in there, you can't
Yes,
do
it
that,
is.
I don't know if you've done that or not, but it takes a while.
And I'm going to caution anybody that does that.
And it's well worth getting that information.
Leave it in order. Put sticky notes, make a copy. If you take it out of order, you could change the context of what you're actually looking at, and whoever has to fix that for you will not be happy. So when you get them, they're in a certain order for a reason. So if you want to take a copy out of it, put a sticky note and do that. But if you take things out of context in the order and they're in, it can change the complexion of what you need to turn in. Or you could miss a page of a report that's vital. The other thing is, I'm a former military member and administrative person. Never mark on your only original copy. Do not highlight your only original copy. Why? If you change that document to look like it's staged or fake, you will have to replace it with a new one. Okay? Documents need to look like the way they came from the government. Do not cut and paste a bunch of what you think are crucial statements onto a page and turn it in. You need to provide the whole document in context. Why? There are people who defraud the government, and we don't want our stuff to be slowed down because they think that's what we're doing. So you get that stack of originals, treat them like the Bible they are, and be respectful of them. Don't, if you want to mark up something, pull it out, make a copy. But if you obliterate a document and it's not useful, you're going to have to get another copy, and those are hard to come by. The second set will cost you. Okay,
Can we
so
hear from this
this
gentleman?
gentleman right here.
First question I have is, by the way, hi Carl, I've seen you for a while. How many of you are for-profit advocates sitting on the board? So whatever information that we pass to you, you can use for personal gain?
No.
That's not how it works.
No. And another comment I'd like to make, Carl, if I call you Carl, you and I work thousands of hours and thousands of days together. I want you to know, NIOSH said back in September, I got cancer this year, radiation report, it was 42,736 milligram. When I left there, I was below 100 milligram when I retired. So you can look at your radiation records and maybe we work together, and mine's that far out of proportion. 42,636 milligram, more than my lifetime dose, which I was never told about, except for just a few months ago. How many people in here's radiation records are that far out of your lifetime dose limits, and how's it affecting you? And another thing is, I got a call from the Department of Labor yesterday on my case, wanting to know, well, how come you haven't got this paperwork? I haven't heard from them in months. Now, NIOSH in September sent a copy of my radiation report, which they called me twice, and they were amazed at the high levels of radiation I received. I was never told about it. The Denver office labor department, my caseworker, Hendricks, who's worthless, the day before Christmas calls me and says, well, it's been 6 weeks since NIOSH mailed this out to us. 6 weeks. And I was over the 50, well over the 50%, and this is something I'd love somebody to explain to me. They're saying that you have to have over 40,000 milligram in order to qualify for the 50% level to qualify for any of the cancers. Over 40,000 milligram, now that's 39,900 times over your lifetime dose. 1 gram of plutonium will cause 10,000 cancer deaths. Now they tell me it's in my long bones, which would be my legs, but legs aren't covered for cancer.
Let's move back. Let's be a little clear. Under Part B will cover any cancer that is caused by radiation exposure. That's part B in general. There is what is called a special exposure cohort. And under the special exposure cohort, if the facility qualifies and has a special exposure cohort, then for 22 of those cancers, there's no need for a dose reconstruction. But that's just for the special exposure cohort. In general, under Part B, any cancer that is caused by radiation is covered.
Now, we talked about chemicals real quick, because I have severe peripheral neuropathy. They tell me you have to identify the specific chemical that caused that. I said there was over 1,500 of them out there, and ones you probably haven't told me about. Take your pick. And they said, sorry, denied. Hey, the Department of Labor has lied to me over my borreliosis and for so many years, and claims, well, we haven't got documents from you, and I've had to take them out there personally and hand them to them, and they still lose them. I mean, it's a cluster screw.
Well,
I don't know what to tell
I
you.
can guess one thing.
It doesn't
okay?
work.
No, the site exposure matrix was developed in 2005, whenever the statute was amended to include toxic substances under Part E. That matrix was supposed to be used as probative evidence, as proof that that chemical was in that building, in that process, and proof that if that worker was in that building and in that process, it was work-related. That's what these matrices were developed for, and that's what the regulations and OWCP has stated in the federal regulations, 20 CFR preamble, this is what it would be used for. This is proof for the workers, because the workers don't know what they're exposed to. As far as being a specific chemical, that is a policy conference memo that the Department of Labor has been issued inside internally, because you don't need a specific chemical. The actual statute says significant factor. Significant factor is defined as any factor according to the Federal Registry, OWCP, in 2006, when it was the final Federal Registry. So significant factor isn't a large, okay? At least as likely as not has been defined in 2005, 2008 in the District Medical Handbook to be more than a hunch, but less than the preponderance of evidence. So that means less than 50%. So if you have more than a hunch and less than 50%, that toxic substance was a factor because of its radiological nature, because of its chemical nature, because of its biological nature, to aggravate your illness, to contribute to your illness, or to cause your illness, and it was work-related, that's it. That's all that's required underneath the regulations and underneath the statute.
And they want a letter from your doctor stating that. And our doctors cannot do that because very few of doctors know about radionuclides effects on bodies.
And even
And-
if you do get one, they won't accept it.
Correct.
Could I ask a question of you, sir?
Yes,
Do
ma'am.
you have, and I am strictly an advocate, okay? I just do this for keeping me out of trouble. We're interested, one of the reasons we're here today is to collect documents,
I have
okay?
thousands of them, but I'm concerned with one thing. One person on your committee told me that the only way she'd talk to us about the effects of chemicals or radionuclides on our body is if we had a contract with that person.
Who said that?
Now,
Me?
Stephanie,
Okay.
now how can Stephanie sit on this committee to represent us in one way, but on the other hand, tell us that she won't talk to us about anything unless she has a contract with us?
As the chair of committee, I need you to understand.
I'm at a loss.
As the chair of this committee, I need you to understand. I am very conscious of conflict of interest information. I am an authorized representative for the few people that choose to have me be their authorized representative. Many people I talk to, I just coach them in the background. I'll go to their hearings with them in the background. I'm not their authorized representative for 2 reasons. They can do it on their own with a little bit of help. And pardon my language, my dad would kick me in the behind if he thought that I was taking advantage of anybody. So as the chair of